Appreciate everybody's indulgence. In fact, everybody's attention. We'll call the Juvenile Detention Center Board meeting of Monday, April 10th, 2023 to order. If we can call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Joe Carr.
I'm here.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Here.
Ms. Leslie Collum.
Here.
Ms. Claire Maxwell.
Here.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Present.
Excellent. We have a quorum. Has the board had an opportunity to review the minutes? Mr. Vice Chair, did we find those minutes in order?
I found them in order.
Any amendments or corrections?
I move that they be approved.
Motion to be approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We're now to public comments. We don't have anybody here, nor do we have anybody on the list.
No.
I am going to stop and take a moment on public comments. Dr. McDonald had a question, I believe, at the last board meeting about were we advertising public comments. You got the knitted eyebrow like you don't remember that question.
I very remember Easter yesterday.
But any of it.
Yes, I do think. I do recall, and thank you so much for indulging me on that.
You're recognized, by the way, on this, because
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Please,
I appreciate that so much. It's just there's so much that's been happening since then, but I appreciate you recognizing me on this. I think my only concern that was trying to address was something that some of our fellow board members had talked about in terms of how we publicize the meetings and what kind of outreach, if any, we can do. Maybe there's not anything we can do related outreach, but using our PR, representatives, or maybe our website. One of the things that came to mind was, with us being the board, is there a way for us to be identified on the website?
So, and thank you for that. So if it's okay with the board, I've asked Ms. Lisa Kay, our public information officer, to look into some of that. Lisa, if you'll come forward and sit and explain what you found, what you've determined, and what we can do, that would be great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
Thank you, Mayor. What I did was I looked at our social media channels, and I realized that this was actually a developmental opportunity for all of our meetings. And I started developing public comment posts because I didn't see anything last year about public comments at all. But to address the website, we have a calendar on the website where every meeting is on there. So that's on there, and also who's on the board. You can click and get more information about the board. So we're doing that. Okay. So it's my belief that once we start advertising for public comments, we'll start getting some.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Kay?
And that advertisement would be on the social media.
It would be on Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Is that satisfactory?
Yes, sir. Thank
Great.
you so much.
And just let me say, Lisa Kay does an excellent job for the county, and quite honestly, she's proactive with a number of ideas in this regard. So thank you, Lisa Kay, very, very
And
much.
not everyone, excuse me, sir, not everyone even realizes this board still exists because it's so brand new.
Right.
And that was kind of what was driving my concern, is that we're kind of the new kids on the block, and there may not be a lot of public awareness regarding our existence and what we were created to do. So,
Well,
but thank you.
Ms. Kay can certainly take care of that. She'll give you all the public awareness your heart's desire, Dr. McDonald.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. I just said that. Be careful what you ask for, right?
All right, excellent. Next is open positions. Ms. Duke?
Okay, we've had a couple of changes here. We still have one part-time EA. We have one full-time corporal opening, which we have posted, and we have applicants, and it has closed, but we haven't started interviewing our internal applicants yet. One temporary full-time position and 3 full-time officers for a total of 6.
So have there been any additional open positions since the last board meeting?
Yes, we have had at least 2 full-time officer positions open, and it may even be 3.
Can you explain why those positions became open?
The 3 employees, 2 of them abandoned post, and one of them had an illness and never returned and never came back.
So it would seem to me, and not being aware of this, which is okay, the abandoned post would be a significant violation of policy and procedure. Would that be accurate?
Yes, one of them went on break and never returned, and the other one had her mother bring all of her uniforms and drop them off with no explanation.
Okay, that settles it. Any questions from the board? Dr. McDonald, you have the proverbial knitted eyebrows.
Have to speak to my parents about that.
Well, look like you had a question.
Yeah, I guess what I would ask is, I know there was no explanation offered. Was there any indication before this behavior?
I believe one of the employees, it was a series of family deaths that weren't documented, a round of COVID that wasn't documented, and then just a failure to return.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Is this an aberration, and is this something that you deal with in the employment situation these days? Is this?
It's not unusual, unfortunately. I feel like that on the surface, this sounds like what might be a lot of people's cup of tea. They want to help, they want to contribute, they want to, be able to do something for their community, and then they get here and then they realize that sometimes, not every day, but that some days are harder than others, and it's just more than juvenile corrections and adult corrections are very different. We have to document so much more and work with young people whose brains aren't there yet. They're still learning to be mature and how to make good decisions. And it's just a little more complicated than I believe most people believe it to be, coupled with that a lot of our young people, this is their first real job. They're very young. They're in their early 20s, and they haven't quite learned the right and proper way to leave a job yet. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
A common theme in employment these days.
Yes. So would you characterize this as an isolated event, or is there any concern about this?
Well, there's a large gap in our current personnel between employees with some seniority who get it, who understand, and who have been through the great kids who are going to turn it around and have been through the kids that are unfortunately never going to get it right, and they have that work experience versus these younger folks who, if they're sometimes when they're doing very well, they want to become a supervisor immediately, and they want to have weekends off and first shift, and all of these things are a process, and sometimes you have to work a weekend and you have to come in when you weren't scheduled because someone was sick, and it's not the first shift 8 to 4, no weekends that everybody wants, but you have to put the time in to get to that point.
Is this something that's addressed in orientation?
Well, we do talk about, obviously, that we have an on-call system. A lot of correctional facilities don't use that, and so what ends up happening is if I'm a officer. I'll come to work thinking I'm going to be leaving at 4. Then about 3:30, the supervisor comes through and says, "Oh, by the way, so-and-so has called out. You're staying till midnight." Well, we've tried to be mindful that everyone has lives and has lots of things that they do during their off time, so that our people who are on shift can be assured that unless there's an emergency, they're guaranteed to leave around their normal time. But we have an on-call system that we discussed during orientation,
Right.
where you know that for that week, you need to be a little more free with your time ability and availability for work, so that everybody kind of can make plans and live their lives as they choose. So we explain that. I don't know where the breakdown is, just hoping that,
Well, we are in a different work environment, especially
Yeah.
since COVID, and there's no, it cuts across both government and the private sector,
Yeah.
and it's just, these are challenges. You know, I think I can speak on behalf of the board. You know, the things that the board can do to support you,
Right.
Lynn, in this regard, we would be glad to do that. I think we're trying to probe, asking the questions so we can hopefully get a better understanding of the problem. So solutions will then present themselves. So
We had-
the things that we can do to
Right.
help you with this, we'd be glad to do.
we did have, and just on the other side of that, we had 2 really great applicants that had a fantastic previous work history, and then they weren't able to pass their drug screens. So
Wow. Do you
We're-
think that the salaries that are offered are competitive to get reasonably
Yes.
mature people?
That's what I was going to ask. Are we going to be able to fill?
they are better than they were, obviously. Now, the catch is that we were behind a little, and we got caught up, but then everybody else bumped, and so we're still, it's better.
We're
it's
not as
good.
far as behind as we were,
That's right.
but we're still a little behind, right?
Well, we'll be addressing this in a little bit on the budget. Is there something, I know mayor's got no increased budget, but is that something that really needs to be considered?
I don't.
A point of clarification, the mayor has a no increase budget as a start point.
Oh,
The mayor hasn't made a recommendation yet. We're waiting to get all of them in, and then Michael Smith, our finance director, tells me really what kind of sorry shape we're in before we make any kind of determination.
Are you confident, Ms. Duke, that we will be able to fill these positions and they won't stay open months and months and months?
Well, this part-time EA has been open for months and months and months. The corporal, we will be able to fill.
What's the issue with the EA?
Yeah.
Nobody
And
wants to work.
Can I help you there?
Nobody wants to work part-time for the most part.
What if it was a retired teacher?
Yes.
Okay, I will see what I can do there.
Or, I mean, I don't know how.
They just changed the rules, so well, they won't lose part of their retirement if they come back.
The catch with that is that everyone in this facility wears multiple hats. So it would have to be a retired teacher who would understand that not only would they be serving educationally, but that potentially, in the event something would happen, they would also be considered a detention officer and be expected to,
Perform those duties.
yes, to,
So perhaps a gentleman.
well, we got some great ladies back there too. So, but I mean,
But no one that's been out of teaching for a long, long time.
we're okay if you've never even been in teaching. Part-time EAs don't have to have ever been in education. So they have to wear that detention officer hat also, which means that they have to go through our OC training class, and that's not attractive to a lot of people.
Okay.
So,
I still will try to see what I
okay,
can do.
that'd be great.
So, Judge, I interrupted you. You didn't get to finish your question. My apologies.
I was simply asking about the salaries that they.
I believe that they are, we are okay right now, as far, yes.
Any other questions regarding open positions? Okay, if none, then we'll move to data report.
So in front of you, you have today's data report. They set this up this morning about 8 o'clock. So we have a total population of 13, with 9 of those being Rutherford County youth. And you can see that we still have, for the most part, mostly 17-year-olds with some pretty serious charges, and several that have been bound over.
TBD, to be determined.
That's correct. They have not had their...
Going to be transferred.
That's correct. They just don't have those dates set yet.
Are these all male, or do we have some?
They're all male at this time.
Okay, that's what I was getting from the rough draft of the education services.
Any questions? Okay, let's move on to item number 6, Educational Services Report.
So last month, we were asked to see if we could come up with a better way to give more information regarding the youth that are getting education services while they're here at detention, and to try to, if possible, have it look like our supplemental educational services form. And so this is our rough draft. It's just for review. We can make adjustments to it as needed. This is our starting point.
These instructors, are they EAs?
No, so the instructors with all the names for the basic education services, Penn Foster is online, and those will have different teachers that Penn Foster has for those classes, and those are usually for our young folks that are doing college courses, or who are going to be here for a very long time, and who the Board of Education plan is just not going to fit their particular needs. The Ingenuity, those are also online, and so these are the teachers that teach those in a computer lab type setting through the Edgenuity program.
So is that all that Edgenuity, is that online instruction?
Yes.
And so that's the online instructor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then now the special education teacher, he is local and he does come in person. He is contracted to do this service by the Board of Education. And then just kind of as a additional information, we did have one young man that did graduate through Penn Foster, and he had a graduation ceremony. He had his cap and gown, and his mom and dad, grandma got to come. He was able to give his mom some flowers. We had a little room set up with him with some refreshments.
That's great.
And so he got the best that he got the music when he, walked in. But
Did he throw his cap up in the air?
No, probably not.
When was that, by the way? Was it been recent?
That was the end of March. Do you have that on?
Had he been held here long?
Yes, he's still here.
Okay. Well, glad he was able to graduate.
Yeah.
So is this a GED equivalent? Is that what that has that categorized? Or is this the actual on the high school on the diploma listed as Penn Foster?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Well,
yes.
good.
The difference with Penn Foster is, and I have it broken down here at the bottom, that if the parents want to, for the college classes, they have to pay for that. And then for the young, in this case, men, who would be better served with Penn Foster instead of the Board of Education, because how long they're going to be with us, they can also opt to pay for Penn Foster. And so this young man graduated with a high school diploma from Penn Foster.
Excellent.
And they framed it for him and
Good.
and did all of that.
Would it be permissible for some of us to come to such a graduation? Because that's noteworthy to
Yes.
encourage people.
Now, I will ask, sometimes we don't get a whole lot of in-person, this is when we can hug and kiss and sit, and, I mean, not girlfriends, but like mamas
Yeah.
giving them some good loving while they're in detention. So I think for like the beginning, that might be something that they would be agreeable to. But I would ask the young people if they were okay with it, because they might want every single second of that time
Okay.
with their
Oh, I get it.
families
I get it.
that they don't normally
But I
have.
was just thinking about as a support.
Yes.
To encourage others that are here to pursue that. I would be willing to
Yeah,
come.
yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
When we do this, could we add the dates like you do on the supplemental report?
And I don't
You
have one of those.
December, 6 December, 7
Oh,
December.
okay, individual days. Okay.
And is everything always a block of an hour? Is it always a certain time frame?
1 hour or specific time frame. All right. I don't think that'll be a problem. And and then we will definitely be able to bring something next month with a little more specifics.
Anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 7, Bureau of Education Memorandum of Understanding, plural. Apparently
Yes.
There's more than one.
There's 2, and this is something that we have done this way for some time now. There is an MOU for basic education services, and there is an MOU for supplemental education services. Of course, this is with the Rutherford County Board of Education. I've got the dates if this passes through this board and consecutive county committees, that it would go into effect at the new fiscal year, which would be July, and then run until June. So if this were to go forward, it would be here for our April board. Obviously, it would be at Public Safety in May, and then June would be Budget and Finance and full commission, allowing it to go and be in effect July 1st.
Nick, have you had an opportunity to review this at all?
I have not, but Ms. Duke is very good about getting things before the commission meeting, so Ms. Duke, is it the typical memorandum we've seen in the past?
Yes,
I'm happy
it is.
If there's any changes with you all with your report.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And then, just so that it doesn't add any time to any deliberations, Dr. Sullivan has already signed it and dated it, showing that they're also on board, obviously.
I had a question that I forgot about. I meant to ask you last time regarding limited English proficiency. As the county's growing, our numbers, our populations in our schools are growing. Is that something that we've been able to handle? Do we have an interpreter? Do we have someone who can help if they're here and we have them in our detention center for a length of time, that they can keep up with studies?
The short answer to all that is yes.
Okay.
We have interpreter services available. We have an ability to use through the Human Resources Department. We have a translation service that it's got a billion language.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do. It's not something that we've had to use yet. Most of the time, before we have any issues, our main I guess, more often than not, it's the parents that need interpretation, and that happens in court. The young people are pretty on top of it as far as languages.
Okay.
Now, this same service can also help us with like American Sign Language and those type issues as well.
I was just
So.
curious.
I had a question about the special education agreement. On page 3, there's a section that talks about insurance. If I'm reading this correctly, detention center is the provider. And there's a reference here that the provider will have insurance.
Is there a number?
It says just insurance.
Insurance, right there in the middle of the page, and then it goes down to describe what the insurance could look like.
Maybe I'm on the wrong.
Page
Three.
So-
Oh, on the supplemental education, okay. I suspect, I don't know, I'd have to refer back to Nick, but this is the same contract that we have had in the past, and I don't think that they would have put something in that we didn't obviously have through risk management. But
And I think it makes all kinds of sense if the provider were a private provider. You'd want them to provide insurance, but if it's county government still, I don't, are you purchasing insurance that complies with this?
Rutherford County is not. I think it would just be the insurance that risk management has in general for.
But the agreement says that
That you'll
the
purchase it.
provider is the Rutherford County Detention Center, Juvenile Detention Center on page 1.
And that you will maintain insurance.
Okay, well, no, Rutherford.
Yeah, I can just comment on that real quick. And again, Lynn, when you send this to me, we usually make a note of that, and I'll
Sure.
look at it. Generally, when I think of departments or a building like this, that's what it is. It's a building. And in
Okay.
terms of an eyes on the wall, in terms of, yes, it's a provider, but ultimately, it's Rutherford County, Tennessee. It's on the hook for any liability or exposure that could arise.
Okay.
And so whether it's an officer, an employee, an official, what have you, ultimately, it's Rutherford County, which is, you all may or may not know, we're self-insured up to a particular retention amount, and then we have excess insurance coverage. But I'm happy just to compare that language and make sure that it's kosher with what we have.
Okay.
Well, and I think in the other agreement, it is limitation of liability. And so this paragraph might be appropriate to replace the insurance section.
Okay, I
Supplement.
haven't looked at that. Is it which county is it with, Lynn, or the insurance requirement?
It's
It's
the
on-
supplemental education services between the Board of Education here in Rutherford County and us.
And the detention center.
Okay.
You,
I have to look at that and report with Lynn on that,
Wait,
okay?
wait, 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 wait.
Before it makes its way up to the county commission.
While we're on insurance, could you clarify something? Because I was unclear. Last meeting, you said something about TennCare no longer.
I have that, and it's the last thing we're going to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a question, and I think you may have answered it for me indirectly. I mean, the caption here is that the contractual parties, are with the Board of Education and the center, but now we have the oversight board that's approving the activities of the center. Should there not be language in the caption or somewhere in here, or are we an agent of the center now? Or, I mean, what exactly is our contractual obligations or liability as it relates to, any kind of agreement?
That's a very loaded question, right? It's a good one. So I, again, view the ultimate responsibility of these contracts is Rutherford County, Tennessee.
Okay.
Okay, so in terms of this board having contractual authority to enter into contracts or have risk exposure, it's not the board. You all are an extension of Rutherford County, Tennessee. And so this is more of an intergovernmental agreement between two entities.
Right,
Even
understand
the
that.
risk management department and our self-insured retention and our excess carrier, it's all falls under the same umbrella. Our insurance policies have both Rutherford County and Rutherford County Board of Education encapsulated within it. So, yes, it says in here the board wants us to work with the county by and through this detention center to cover any exposure risk, but ultimately, it's all in the same pot.
Okay, it does make sense. And again, it was more related to, are we an agent now of the center? I understand, the authority we have through the Rutherford County government, but it's just with this now new relationship.
So take, for example, whether it be the Highway Commission, who deals with roadways in our
Right.
county, or even the Work Center, if there is some sort of litigation that ensues, say a highway department truck gets in a vehicle with another, person on the roadway, or say an officer unintentionally mishandles an inmate or a work center person over there and injures them, and the workhouse gets sued, or the highway department gets sued, or Greg Brooks, who's our highway superintendent, gets sued in his official capacity as the overseer or superintendent, ultimately, it's Rutherford County.
Okay.
Denies the law.
Right, and that's very helpful, but I guess what I'm really getting to is that should not the caption or the signatory responsibilities indicate in the document that it's a center oversight board in some way?
I'm happy to look at that. I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think that's necessary.
Okay.
I think ultimately, it's, again, Rutherford County.
Okay.
So when we have, the planning department needs an independent contractor to do some survey stuff, it's not a contract between the Rutherford County Planning and Engineering Department or even the Rutherford County Planning Commission.
Okay,
It's Rutherford County. Texas.
got it.
Makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, with that explanation, this insurance provision may not even be germane.
It may not, and ultimately, this is an agreement with the Board of Education, so I'm not necessarily too worried about a lot of that stuff. Because if Dr. Sullivan gets upset because we didn't cover insurance, I'm sure we can work it out by going to Ed Elam, our risk management director, and ultimately, if the exposure is over the retention amount, we're gonna have a third party who we're dealing with, which is the county's excess insurance carrier. But these are all really good points when you're looking at this stuff. These are important
Okay.
questions to ask, and I've noted them, and then when Lynn gets with me before this makes its way out, if there's any changes that need to be made, we'll do it.
No, but I appreciate your, thank you so much.
I do believe there's action necessary here, though. This, if the board approves, this will go to the Public Safety Committee, correct?
Yes.
And so this board would need a motion and a second to send this to the Public Safety Committee for review.
I would move that with the caveat that legal and Director Duke will determine whether the insurance language should stay in or come out or be replaced with something else.
I'd second your motion there.
Okay, with caveat, right? Seconds with the caveat?
Right.
Excellent.
Condition, I guess, condition
Right.
on review by.
Is that acceptable, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It moves to Public Safety under the condition that it's reviewed by Ms. Duke and Nick Christensen. Next is quarterly report. Ms. Duke?
So we are starting having the quarterly report be given to everybody, and I have the months that we talked about, which would be January, February, and March. But keep in mind that when I go to public safety in January, February, and March, it's the previous month's data that I'm sharing with them. So with that being said, you have the 3 months for the first quarter, let's call it, that we are reporting to the board.
And just for clarification, the first quarter is the calendar year that you're referencing, not the fiscal year, correct?
Well, we're just starting with the quarter since we've been talking about it.
So the answer to both those questions was no.
but I can do this anyway.
No, I'm not asking for you to do anything different. I'm asking when you say first quarter.
No, that is not what, no. We wanted to start getting the data compiled and
Disseminated.
to all of the board members.
Correct.
And so we were just going to start this month. So
Perfect,
then,
that's what I need to know.
yes.
Thank you very much. When I heard, never mind.
yes.
For that clarification, I misunderstood.
Make sure I'm on the right report. Does it look like this?
Yes, sir. And there's 3 months worth. It'll be
July through June, first one I have.
the last column. So at the top, as an example, this would be December's.
Right.
Okay. You've got actually all of them at this point,
Oh, I
but
see.
and then January and then February. But because I do these monthly and they compile
Okay.
over the year, you technically have them all.
Okay,
I just
okay.
wanted to. There's additional documentation that goes with the reports that I turn in monthly, so I would just give them to you as I do to public safety.
Okay.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Lynn. Now we'll go to the PR.
Let me just, let's.
Please, no, sorry.
So if you flip through this and you said February 23, it shows you, it says in county, it lists MPD, I see that's Murfreesboro Police Department.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get on the right page. So, yes, all right.
These are actions by Murfreesboro Police Department, LPD is Laverne Police Department.
That's correct.
And what's the next one?
Youth Services Office, which
Okay.
is our county level juvenile probation, and it's a /DCS, which is the Department of Children's Services, but
Okay.
we don't contract with them currently, so it's always going to be youth services.
Okay, so, and then from out of county, and then these are categories of types of, I'd say offenses or bases of the actions for the detention.
Right, the top chart, let's call it, is for all of the young folks detained here in our facility, February 2023, and what they were charged with. And then the bottom chart is the charges and from where, who came in, got their paperwork processed, court dates, and then were released same day. Never stayed the night.
Okay, that's same day, in and out. Okay. So this gives you a good picture of the type of actions that are generating these residents.
Correct.
Do we have private citizens that bring in?
You can have, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
I can give
Is it
you,
usually a parent?
as an example, we had a domestic, this is Monday, last week, where it was a girlfriend, a live-in girlfriend. So it wasn't necessarily a parent, and the law enforcement weren't called, but so it's a parental figure in that case.
Okay. Okay.
But usually, there was a time when it could have been a private, like on a theft or vandalism charge, but most times now, since they've raised the limit that switches it from misdemeanor to felony, there's going to be an officer involved.
Okay.
But it's not completely unheard of.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's a helpful report to see. and I appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments, or pithy quips? Seeing none, we'll move to the PREA audit.
Okay, so PREA is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It's a federal act. We are required by that federal law to have a PREA audit every 3 years. This is our year to do the next audit. We are hoping to use this same gentleman as the auditor that we used for our last audit. No nonsense. Lives relatively close. He only has to be here for 1 day in-house, and then everything else he does is internet-based or telephone call. His auditor's fees are $5,500, and it's all-inclusive. That is a little more than it was 3 years ago, but not out of the range of what some auditors charge. I've seen some auditors that are $10,000 or more, so I feel very comfortable with this particular auditor and his fees, and I will answer.
This looks like it's on the budget, $399.
I'm sure it is in the budget.
Yep, I'm just looking at it.
Yeah.
Page 2
Yes.
of the budget.
And I had used his contract price in hopes that we would be able to use this particular
And
gentleman.
this is required?
Yes, by federal law.
Okay,
Now, I'm not required to use this.
I understand.
Yes.
But because you've used this individual before, and so what does this audit get us? What's the get, other than the requirement?
The get is that we can say that we are 100% compliant, that we're doing all the things that we need to do as far as making sure that the young folks that are here are not having any issues with inappropriate sexual conduct, basically, from other young folks or staff, and that our policy is set up in such a way that we are able to do so, and it is specifically stated in policy how it is required to be. A lot of the policy that is in the current SOP that y'all have seen, a lot of that language is there based on how PREA prefers that it be stated or is required that it's stated, so that they can say, yes, it's in their policy, it's right here, this is what she means, and this is what we mean when she says it, and that checks the box.
So this auditor's dealt with PREA before, so?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Any other questions? We will need a motion and a second to approve, and we'll have to have a roll call vote since we're talking about money.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If you'll call the roll, please. This will be a roll call vote.
Mayor Joe Carn,
Aye.
Judge Steve Daniel,
Aye.
Ms. Leslie Collum,
Aye.
Ms. Claire Maxwell,
Aye.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Aye.
I'm sorry. I was just
Okay.
going to say, if this makes it through the rest of the committee process, he will be here August 10th and 11th.
Okay, that'll be fine. So this then goes to public safety for approval, and then on to the budget and then the full commission.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Any other questions about the PREA audit?
This happens every 3 years?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now we've got the number 10, the JDC Budget Review. Oh, what joy.
So this is the same sheet that I shared at last board meeting, and I just provided again just in case you didn't have the last copy with you.
So an explanation, I asked all the departments to come with no increases to their budgets. The reason being we inherited a $64 million deficit, and I think I've shared with the board before, the county has never had a $64 million deficit before, or a 50 or a 40. So we're in brand new territory. That's not to say this is where this budget's going to end up, or certainly this would hopefully not be my recommendation, but I don't know until the finance director Michael Smith gets back to me and lets me know how we're doing on our revenues as it relates to, in comparison to what's projected, I expect to have those numbers on or before the 1st of May. And so, but this is a start point. Hopefully, prayerfully, there will not be any cuts. But honestly, we just don't know. And so Ms. Duke and Mr. Cesar were very, very cooperative in bringing in no increases. There are some minor increases. Those are a result of pensions and insurance and those kind of things that are necessary, but they made no increases to their budget. So I'll be happy to answer any questions along with Ms. Duke.
Well, we had this issue, and you probably got this somewhere, about TennCare not covering it.
Yes.
We got to move money from one place to another last month. So how did that work out?
Okay, so I didn't put it on the agenda, but I did speak with the Volunteer Behavioral Health Services, and so they have actually been gifting us for some time, and I wasn't aware of it.
They've been doing what?
Gifting us, and I'll explain.
Yes, please.
So
I like the term.
the TennCare policy has been in, well, at least what they shared with me has been in existence since 2016. And it basically, without, they don't mince any words, they don't pay for incarcerated adults or youth while they are being actively held. So previous to this past month, Volunteer Behavior Health has just sort of been covering that cost for us. But because our referrals to them have increased, they can't do that anymore. So I have the policy. They are right when they say that it doesn't cover it, but I misunderstood why it had changed. It just came to a point where, because we are referring so many young people, they can't gift us anymore. We're going to have to take, they're out of gifts. Yes.
It would be nice if the policy would get changed, because I would say most of our children that come in here have some kind of mental health issues, and they're not all going to have private insurance.
Right. Well, we love our relationship with Volunteer Behavioral Health. The people that they have that come are fabulous, and they get it, and they know true need from slight exaggeration, but they work so well with all of our young people. And they are, I can tell you, they are earning their money this month, because we have a couple of young folks that are giving them a run for their money.
Gotcha.
So that's what happened with that. Suffice to say that because I now understand that it was a gift, I had to, cover it now, and I used to not.
And we're covering it through the line item for our medical services, Dr. Wood.
Let me make sure. That is correct. And so this budget in front of you has that increased cost added, but the budget we were currently working out of, where I had to move some money, didn't. And that has gone through public safety and budget and finance. It just has one more to go through. But this budget has this taken into consideration.
And so basically, what's proposed on this line item, I believe it's 340.
Correct.
It'll go to the figure in the last column before explanation.
Right. So, Dr. I don't have it right in front of me, but oh yeah, I do. I'm so good. I put it right there. Dr. Rudd's contract for this year is the figure in parentheses, and so I have allotted the additional $12,000, which I think is going to be a little more than needed, but should cover us for those additional services. And just as a reminder, not only is it a good thing to do, but we are required by minimum standards to address healthcare needs while the youth are here.
Just to be clear, item 340 is an increase of $26,271.
Yes, because last fiscal year, we were on the wrong year of the contract, and we didn't put enough money in to cover RUD.
So you had to do a budget amendment to make up the difference?
Yes,
Okay.
and it was a combo. It was
The combo?
It was a combo. It was RUD's additional money and the mental health.
Thank you. So that 198,271 would be including mental health?
Yes, and the correct RUD number.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Any other questions about the budget? We can take as long as you like. It's important. I think what I may do, Lynn, I don't think the board will object, but as soon as we get the final numbers to Michael, we will come back to the May board meeting with the target of having the final numbers for y'all's review, if that's okay. As a matter of fact, why don't you and I make sure that the board has the budget in advance of the board meeting so we can expedite this, because the board, we will be under a time crunch at that point, and so to get to our end of June meeting.
Okay.
So why don't we just make it a point to have the budget in their hand, if at all possible, for the next meeting, and then y'all will come armed with your questions at that time. Will that work?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry?
The meeting would be the 8th.
if you say so, Judge.
I'm asking.
I don't know.
Because sometimes with these holidays.
Oh, that's right.
That meeting is the 8th.
It's
Okay,
the 8th.
great.
For the
Okay.
8th.
Yeah, great. So if you'll help me with that, Lynn.
Okay.
Are there any questions on this preliminary
No,
budget? Okay, great. I don't think there's any action necessary because we're not going to adopt yet. That'll happen at the next board meeting. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Other business. Boy, we are sailing right along today, folks. We're getting good at this.
So Dr. McDonald had asked that I forward along the State of the Child report, and you've got it in front of you.
Great.
Mayor, you'll be happy to know we just added more wind to our sail because the concerns that I had on this are now moved and clearly not right. But it was my understanding, though, that Rutherford County may not be reflected in some of the reporting.
So this doesn't, as I went through it, this is
It's like it's a
state
separate.
at a glance.
Right.
And so I had marked 3 areas that were sort of detention specific, but more than anything, I believe that this addresses issues with youth that are in residential care with the
Right.
state, and not just detention centers. It would be young folks who are in the custody of the state of Tennessee and are in their residential facilities.
Foster
And-
care as well.
Yes, this covers a little bit of everything. But there,
I was just more concerned about if there being any nexus between, as you indicated, these residential centers and juvenile detention centers in terms of our shared populations at any given time.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
They talk about, so like the 3 places that I marked were page 31, where it talks about teen risk behaviors. Now, that's going to carry across
Right.
counties also. So I think that you can, take a look at 31 and know that these risk behaviors would also be risk behaviors specific to Rutherford County as well. Additionally, on page 43 is where it talks about youth justice in general. So where it talks a lot here about intensive probation and what we would consider regular probation, which is not going to be the detention center. It would be like youth services or state probation. And so when they talk about caseworkers, this, in my opinion, does not reflect, for example, what the Rutherford County Youth Services officers are doing.
Right.
This is more along the lines of the reports that you see on TV about the Department of Children's Services. And then lastly, on page 44, it's a little more information about youth justice in general. And so really, this is the only place that I could find that it specifically referenced jails or detentions.
Right.
And we're in the orange. But below that, where it talks about in September 22, DCS had 371 children, and so on and so forth. That is talking about state facilities, not county facilities. But it does show that next paragraph is talking about small community-based facilities. I think we would fit into that category.
Okay. Thank you.
SOP, Dr. McDonald.
Last month, I know we took action on the SOP, and my concerns today don't impact that, other than trying to make sure that we're on solid ground. I went through and read the minutes for last month. The way the language reads is that what we did was we approved amendments to the document, but we never approved the document as amended. And those are two different things.
They are, and if the minutes, my recollection is different.
And so I would move that we approve the document today as amended.
Absolutely, and to the extent that we may have, and it's not reflected accurately in the minutes, it does us no harm to approve it twice, Dr. McDonald.
If I may, just real quick.
Yes.
And part of that motion, Dr. McDonald, just to make sure, since there may be an ambiguity of how certain people remember the meeting, we want to get it right, I would suggest that the motion that's here today, have it, that the SOP is effective.
I promise you I have the language here. Haven't had a chance to make the motion.
Okay, if you would, please.
The motion today is to approve the SOP for 2023 as amended, retroactive to March 13th, 2023.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please, since it is on the SOP.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Aye.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Yes.
Ms. Leslie Collins.
Aye.
Ms. Claire Maxwell.
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Dr. McDonald, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
August board.
It has been brought to my attention that the August board, which would be on August the 14th, myself and Captain Caesar are going to be out of town at a conference. So I can have somebody sub in. It won't be near as fabulous.
I can't imagine. Now, I can
change it.
I can barely imagine having a board without you. I can't possibly having one without Captain Caesar, right? So this is appropriate. Lisa Kay, I'm going to make a suggestion. Well, let me make the suggestion first. My suggestion is for the August meeting that we have it the week before. Monday
That's
before,
August
so
7th.
that would be the 7th?
August
Is
7th, okay.
is that satisfactory? So let's go ahead and have a motion and a second on that.
I move.
We got a motion from Claire. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we got a second from Judge Daniel, excuse me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are moving the meeting to August 7th, same time, same location, just different date. Yes, ma'am.
It will not be the same location.
Won't be here?
No, I think I'll be at the courthouse.
Let me ask you, since the private act, excellent, Leslie, let me ask you this question. Does that not give us the option, or is it the requirement?
I think it's a requirement.
Well, we're going to be safe and have it at room 205, and we can make that determination later. So thank you very much for that. So
Yes, thank
we will,
Courthouse?
in room 205,
Okay.
yes. Thank you very, very much. See, it takes a village. And we've already, so yes, so to amend that,
Let me ask this question before you get that far.
please.
Has that piece of legislation already gone through and been signed by everybody at this point?
It has not.
The governor signed it.
So, okay, well, it's gotta come back down here and it'll be,
It's gotta be approved by.
Yeah.
it's gotta be ratified by us, it'll probably be the May commission meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Which will
probably gonna be done.
after the May board meeting, so I guess June, maybe the first time that y'all are over at the courthouse.
Okay,
Governor signed it last week.
Okay, great, I'm gonna print that out, thanks, Leslie.
okay.
That's good to
Just
know.
make sure that.
All those in favor of moving the August 14th JDC meeting to the 7th at the same time to the courthouse, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you for that. On another business, if the May County Commission ratifies the private act, then the June next meeting will also be at the Rutherford County Courthouse. So we will make that announcement in May, which means I got to inform Rachel to publicly make that notice.
She just gotta change the language.
Correct,
the location.
but still a necessity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm trying to multitask over here. Any other questions on the August meeting? Excellent. JD staffing by days, weeks, I guess that's you, isn't it, Ms. Duke?
So, Ms. Cullum had asked that we provide the JDC staffing by the days of the week and by shift. So I have included kind of our master schedule, that this will not be for public consumption. And everything on this is correct except for, if you will look down at the bottom on that second chart where it says detention officers, the last row, number 7, the employee in position number 1922, she was the young lady whose mother brought her uniforms. So her name on this list would now also be an open female position. So there's 3 female positions currently open. And just because I am a visual person, I added a great little hand-drawn chart.
I love it.
Because I think...
With the appropriate stick figures, I hope.
No, just so that you can kind of understand the layout of the facility and why certain level of staffing is required at certain times. The posts that would be mandatory for us to fill have a little red dot by them, but then it also shows other areas where staff members may have to escort a young person to and from, and then that would take from our posts as you see that are documented. Now, as we're talking about this, I just want to say that some of the things that we don't always think about is that I have currently one employee out on an FMLA that won't be returning in probably May sometime. I have another employee on an intermittent FMLA, which means sometimes that employee is here and sometimes she is not. And then I have one gentleman whose position I haven't filled yet that is out on military leave. In addition to those 6 open positions, so that on our master schedule, as you note, the first column on the left where it says average staff, sometimes that number is misleading in that I may have that many average staff on the schedule, but we haven't had that many people actually in the building for quite some time. So, just because of sick days, vacation, open positions.
Is that why there's no red dot in CPOD?
That is correct. And that's generally where we would keep our young ladies. We are not currently accepting young ladies from out of county because we can control that. Rutherford County females would be detained, but it would take an extra body to man that position.
So how many total employees do we have for all 24 hours? I guess you could total all these up.
I don't know that I understand your question.
Okay, so.
Like on Monday, how many total?
No, we're just, when you get ready to do budget, how many total employees do we budget for?
There's about 40, give or take. Some of
35 to 40?
Yeah, some of those are part-time though.
Okay. How many of them are part-time, Jill?
Down at the bottom, the names that have a little, I should have put that on there. The names that have an asterisk beside them, those are part-time, either positions or part-time employees. So we have under like education assistants, where it actually says part-time, but those two positions have an asterisk. Our chaplain is a part-time position, and our receptionist is a part-time position.
Okay.
And until you just said it just a minute ago, I didn't realize when we were talking about open positions that you wanted females. I didn't realize.
You gotta have them for female.
Well, just, just also because, some young men interact better with women than they do with men. But we always want to have one of each, at least on each shift, just to cover all possibilities for intake, searches, and such like that.
So according to the employees that are in this year's proposed budget, it is 35 full-time employees, including Ms. Duke and Mr. Cesar, Captain Cesar, forgive me, and multiple part-time positions, which include but not limited to chaplain, education assistants, receptionists, and detention officers. Correct?
I do not have part-time detention officers in the budget this year because we never could fill those positions last year.
Okay. Anyway, so 35 full-time.
Funding for open positions, are those dollars encumbered?
They exist and they're there for if and when I get somebody in the position, and then at the end of the year or what have you, if they're not spent, they return to the county general.
They're appropriated but unencumbered until such time as they're hired. So example, when Ms. Duke budgets for an open position in this 23-24 budget year, it may be January before that position is filled. So only half of that money budgeted for that position is actually appropriated, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Okay.
That also gives us slight flexibility in the event that an employee comes in with enough work history, 5 years or more, that they can start off at a higher step than a completely green employee. So there's a little bit of money difference there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cullen, any other questions about that?
This is great.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there any other business? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.